All right. Hi there, 1 or 2A students. Let's go ahead and work through this. I'm just going to work through the problems on this side, and it's going to be your job to try to use the information from this side to do the work on the other side. So do your best with it. Try to follow along. Work with me on paper, and make sure that you are constantly asking yourself, do I get what Mr. Bostwick just did? Do I get what Mr. Bostwick just did? And if you don't, rewind and look at it again, and if that doesn't work, ask me a question. All right, so let's get going. It says graph y equals 2/3 x minus 1. I'm kind of going to ignore the directions here for a second, and we'll go through a couple of ways to graph this. So if I'm going to graph y equals 2/3 x minus 1, one really reliable thing that I can do is I can make a table and then just graph the points in the table. So I'm going to choose x and y, and then I'll just graph, I'll choose 3 points. I'm going to choose -6, 0, and 6. And if you're wondering why I chose those weird numbers, why -6, why +6, let me try to fill you in. So what I notice about this function is that it has a slope of 2/3. This function says, and I'll write it out in words here, multiply by 2/3, then subtract 1. Okay, so multiply by 2/3, then subtract 1. So if I'm multiplying by 2/3, that means I need to be able to look at numbers that are divisible by 3, because multiplying by 2/3 is going to be like dividing by 3 and multiplying by 2. So I've chosen some inputs that are like multiplying, that are divisible by 3, -6, 6, and 0. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to follow my own directions here. -6 times 2/3. I'm going to make my pencil a little bit thinner here so it's more legible. -6 times 2/3 minus 1. So -6 times 2/3, that is -4 minus 1 equals -5. And so there's my scratch work. I get -5 right there. So let's do 0. 2/3 times 0 minus 1. 2/3 times 0 is 0 minus 1 equals -1. So I'll graph, or I'll put -1 there. Now I need to look at +6, which I'll do my work down here. 2/3 times 6 minus 1. So I'm multiplying the input of 6 times 2/3. I get 4. Minus 1 gives me 3. And so now I have 3 points to plot. I have -6, -5, 0, -1, and 6, 3. So I'm going to go ahead and plot those. Then I'm going to back up and I'm going to do it a different way that might be a little bit faster for you in the future. But this way is reliable for any function. Just figure out what the function does to the input, calculate it for a few of the inputs, and then you find out where the points need to go. So -6, -5, that's going to be, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the left. And then I'll go 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. And I'll make my point right there, and I'm going to get rid of this work here. All right, and so then I'll do 0, -1. So 0 is nothing left or right, and then down 1, and so there's my point there. And then 6, 3 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the right, then 1, 2, 3 up, and so my point's going to go right there. And so I have those 3 points, and I'd be able to draw a line through them as best I can, and I've graphed the function. So that's one way to go about it. You can just figure out some outputs for the inputs and then graph it. I'm going to back up and I'm going to show you a different way that's often more efficient for this kind of function, and that is to use our knowledge of slope and y-intercept to figure out. So the y-intercept in this function is the number that is the constant, and that is -1 here. So 0, -1 is my y-intercept. That's going to make the other number next to the x, my coefficient, 2/3 the slope. And so I can actually use that information to graph because the slope is the same as the rise over the run, and in this case it's equal to 2/3. Another way to think about that is the change in y over change in x. So I'm going to look at my y-intercept, which is at 0, -1, and then I'm going to notice that my change in y is 2 and my change in x is 3. And so I'm going to go from my y-intercept, I'm going to go up 2 and then I'm going to go to the right. I'm going to add 3 to the output, so that's over 3. And then I can make a new point. And so I should be able to repeat that. I'll go up 2, and that's this 2 right here, and then I'm going to go to the right 3, and I can plot another point. You can work backwards as well, so I can go to the left 3, and then go down 2, and I'll end up at this point right here. And you can kind of use the pattern from there, back 3, down 2, back 3, down 2, and if I start back up at this point over here, up 2 over 3, and then I get this line, and it's in exactly the same place. And what I did is I used my knowledge of slope and y-intercept to figure that out. So I know that if 2/3 is my slope, that means up 2 over 3, because it's change in y over change in x, or a rise of 2 over a run of 3. All right, so we'll use that strategy rather than the table strategy on the next one. So let's go ahead and look at the next one. So when I'm thinking about this one, I'm going to go ahead and identify the slope and y-intercept. The y-intercept is the constant, so that's 0, 3. And then the slope is the coefficient, -4/5. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start by graphing 0, 3, which is right there. So I graph 0, 3, and now my slope, my rise over run, is equal to -4 over 5. So my rise is, I'm going to write this in other words, down 4, right 5. Okay, so let's use that. So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and then right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so just showing you my counting there, you don't have to make those marks, but you do have to plot the point. So down 1, 2, 3, 4, over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I want to work backwards, I'm going to go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to go to the left 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On these problems, you should end up with these linear things with a nice straight line. If you plot any of your points and you're not able to draw a straight line through all of them, you've made a mistake. So back up and try again. You got to persist to learn. All right, so hopefully that makes it a little bit clearer. Your job now is to try to complete the other side. I'm going to ask you to graph something. I'm going to ask you several questions that rely on some of this information that we just went through. Good luck. Ask questions of Mr. Bostwick if you have them. Thanks.